everything you own should not be 100% yours. If not, you don't have a brand. Your brand is not influential. You do, yes.
It's everything you do is just on you.
It's not that you don't have an influential brand. If you've not built influence, if nobody is saying, come and do this, I want to give you this, you don't have a brand. No, let me tell you. You are just starting your journey.
Stretch Street Podcast.
Hello beautiful people, my name is 𝗕𝗂𝗏𝗍. So I want to invite you to be a part of my inner circle. Alright, so I am a life and personal development coach. What I do is I help people build systems. And what I mean by building systems is something that looks like habits that can help you achieve your goals in 3 critical areas of your life. I'm very, very particular about health and wellness, relationship and family, and career and business. Look, I understand what it means to struggle in all these areas that I have just mentioned, and I am willing to show you how to navigate through tough times. I've been there, and I'm also certified to help you navigate through these trying times. Do not take my word for it. All you need to do is click the link that you can see below and be a part of my inner circle. See you.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode on Your Voice, Your Impact. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us again today. So I sent an email out earlier to my mailing list to let them know about this. I haven't been carrying them along. I'm like, oh my God, this is time. We're going to carry them along this time around. And I remember I had to calculate how long we've been doing this for. This is our 33rd Monday, 7 months in. We started on the 19th of June 2023. So this is the 33rd time we are live. Of course, yes, we didn't start quite on LinkedIn and on YouTube. We started on Instagram, and then we moved for like 2 weeks to X, and then we came back here. All right, so we're here now, and so it's 33 weeks of being consistent. I'm like, it's time to take it a notch higher, and so I'm super excited today. Today on the show we have Laura Laugier. I know, I hope I'm pronouncing it. I need to go and learn French. She is going to be. So it's a conversation we're having, anyways. We're having a conversation. Laura is such a I'm looking for the words to describe her. We've known each other now for almost 2 years now, and she's been a beautiful support system and such a loving mom to her precious boy. And she's going to be telling us a little bit about that. She's the brain behind the balance framework, and that's what we want to talk about today. And that's why today's topic is the B in balance. Okay, so I'm going to bring up my co-host and our guest right now. My co-host, 𝗕𝗂𝗏𝗍. You already met her, yes, in the clip before, but now you're going to meet her again, fresh. Welcome, everybody. Hello.
EJ, at 4 o'clock, you're like a cup of coffee.
Brew me any time of the day and I'ma answer. Like, I got so much energy that I'm ready. Like, let's go. Especially when there's camera, light, action. Oh my gosh. Like, the energy just kicks in from, like, where have you been? Anyways, guys, welcome. Yes, I'm going to shut up quickly. I don't want to talk too much today because I want to soak in some value in this room today. And I know for sure that, Grace asks amazing questions. That's why she's 𝗕𝗂𝗏𝗍. So I'm going to allow her to do much of the asking. I'm just going to facilitate the conversation today. So wherever you're joining us from, let us know in the comment section, whether you're joining us from LinkedIn or you're joining from YouTube. I don't think I can see the comments on X. So if you're there on X and you're watching right now, thank you for watching. You can always leave your comments in the comments, and I will reply to you after the session on X, okay? But if you're on YouTube and on LinkedIn, I can see your comments and I can put it on the screen, all right? Grace, how are you today?
Amazing. I'm
Wonderful.
super amazing. And that's because I told you last week we had our Friends to Lean on Global Foundation. By the way, my name is 𝗕ecie𝗂𝗿 𝗩𝗁𝗄. I am a life and personal development coach. I'm also a cognitive behavioral therapist and the founder of an NGO called Friends to Lean on Global Foundation. And what we do basically is we educate people on mental and emotional wellness. Yes. Speaking of that, this weekend, I like to talk about my weekend. My weekend was amazing and it was about F2LO, Friends to Lean On. We had our support group therapy session on Saturday and it was really interesting. It was um again, it was refreshing. It was that period usually is when I do some level of self-care. And then yesterday on Sunday I rested. I rested. After service, I rested all day. And today the message I sent today on my Instagram was work hard, rest hard, and play hard. And someone sent me a message and said, how do you rest hard? All right. So I think the topic we have today is, about the B in the balance. So I can't wait to hear what Laura's got for us. So let me allow Laura introduce herself. Hi, Azagba. Good to have you. We have one of us watching us. Hi, darling. Yes. Go,
Fantastic.
girl.
Thank you all for joining. Yes, thank you, Satoshi, for being here. Yes. Yeah, so we have this tradition of saying what the weekend was about. Mine was okay. I hosted an event here, in collaborate, like the women talk event here, and we had this beautiful gathering of women. We talked about our health, nutrition, mental health, and physical wellness, and it was really amazing. We had a good time. We had good laugh, fun. It was all good. And then yesterday was fun. I was out to the beach. Yay! I love the beach. So I have a friend who, like, that's her calm every week. And so we made an agreement. Every weekend we find a beach to go to, and then we'll just sit there for a while, talk, pray, and then go back. And it's very refreshing. So I look forward to it. And so I had that, and then to church, and then so it was a beautiful weekend for me. So yes, Laura, let us know about you and then tell us how your weekend was. And then we get into the conversation.
Okay, well, first to begin, thank you, EJ, for having me here, extending the invitation. Thank you, Grace, for the amazing start to this conversation and about the weekend. I was just being a mom this weekend with my little one. Especially yesterday, there was a festival by a friend who, it's not just for vegans festival, and it was anything to do be outside, anything to be outside. And we were in this little place called the Irish Village here in Dubai, where they have a little pond with the ducks. EJ, this is
Yeah.
the place that opposite to where we first met. And
Oh,
my son had so much fun on the bouncy castle, and he was making music, and then we were listening to live music and
oh,
just chilling out on a Sunday. We're enjoying Grace here in Dubai. It's going to heat up to the point we're melting. So we enjoy our winter. As long as we can sit outside, we do this. So just being outside. And I guess science teaches us that just being in nature. And
right.
even though in the desert, you might think there's not a lot of nature, when you get out here, yes, there is. Even if you go into the sand dunes, it in itself is a nature drive. The weekend before, we drove all the way out to Alain, to the
Ah,
desert, to And that's a very green town, but we went to the zoo on that side. So any opportunity to get into nature, I think it really enhances this ability to be and get back to your essence.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I agree with you. And again, like you said, it's easy to think, oh, what is there in the desert? And then with the way Dubai keeps building and building, like they're taking away all the natural things we can see. But it's like, no, you have to go on a trip to go and see the natural things because in the city it's just buildings and buildings and buildings. But again, I also love the fact that sometimes they kind of recreate that feel, even though it's not the same, but at least you still kind of, so that I feel like, don't forget that there is still something called nature. There are green grasses, there are leaves, there's water and all of that. And so they kind of recreate that even indoors. And that's a blessing for us over here in Dubai, because during summer when we can't be with the real nature, we can at least be with something that looks like nature on the inside, on the indoor parks and things like that. All right, so let's get into today's conversation, talking about the be in balance. First of all, I mean, I would love for you to just take us like a summary of how you came to this framework of balance, and then we'll talk about what does the B represent.
So I am the mama to a special needs child. My son has a genetic condition called 5p minus or Cri du Chat syndrome. And that's where chromosome number 5 is partially deleted, causing neurological and physical delayed development. And as a layer onto that syndrome, he also has epilepsy. So I used to work in corporate in luxury hospitality and chose to step out to be in Ali's world of inclusion. And one of the things I was reflecting on, especially as I made a transition, is that parents of children with special, all parents, but also particularly parents of children with special needs, we always are looking for more resources, more money to pay for therapies, more things to stimulate our children, more research into whatever it is that we're dealing with. So for us, we're always on the go. And I felt for myself, I started kind of living my life. So my life became always being on the go, constantly driving from therapy to school, to doctors, to medicals, to assessments, etc. And I'm always on a thirst. And the thing is, it will never end. As long as his mom, as long as I'm alive, as long as he's alive, this is a journey. And I found myself burning out quite often. And I went through a whole, they call it the Kubler-Ross curve when it first started. And, being angry and in denial, and then trying to come to a bit of semblance of accepting and things like this. And then I realized that where people were talking about work-life balance, where, everything is on an equilibrium, this doesn't exist. It never existed, much less as a parent of a child with special needs. And I often found myself using the word balance, and I asked myself, what does balance really mean? So balance for me, I figured out, actually means being in the place and putting attention where attention is needed, not necessarily in every place, everywhere, all the time, because that's just impossible. And a lot of times, I think with a lot of the decisions, now my little one, he's 5 years old, 6 in a couple of weeks. We're at the beginning of our journey and a lot of things are so new. So I created the balance framework to help me work through many of the decisions and many of the beliefs. B in the word BALANC, it's an acronym. The B in balance is the beliefs that we have. And it's also part of how do we choose to be. So in a nutshell, the balance framework is about working through things that can become very big or our beliefs, and choosing to accept, or at the very least acknowledge, where we are at any point in time, to help us tap into our resources, right? Because whether you're a professional, whether you're a parent, whether you're a student, human beings, we all have things to do. And this is something I liked about the conversation last week. We're so accustomed to doing. But by choosing to kind of slow down, to be, we can make different choices. And then when we do make those choices, a very big part is not just choosing to make those choices, but also to stop and just to examine what is the result of those. And so the framework, it's 7 parts that I use with parents of children with special needs to help them learn the framework and take it home with them to use for themselves.
That's a beautiful journey that you've taken to this point. So when we in your journey after creating this framework, what have you observed with parents trying to adopt it, and how is it, what's the response been like, and how is it helping them, would I say, would it be the right word to say manage the situation, or navigate the situation?
Here's the thing, we all try to manage. And when you say the word manage, you want to go in a certain direction. You want to go there. I love the word navigate, because you might want to go in that direction, but in reality, you will end up in another direction. It's like our careers. One of the platforms we're speaking on today is LinkedIn, which for me is an amazing space, because many of us, we go to university, we study something, we start a career. And when you look back 30 years later, that's not where, like if I look at where I started and where I ended up in corporate, it was not. So when you go with the flow, you navigate. It's a beautiful metaphor. What I've noticed with the framework, a lot of us, we resist the navigation. And that's what causes the anxiousness, the anxiety, and the stress. And I think for Grace, a lot of your clients that sit in front of you end up there because things are, they're resisting, right? And Eckhart Tolle, I love his book, A New Earth, says, what we resist persists. So the framework is to help accept what is existing. What is there existing? Just to look at it. Just to look at it and find ways of letting it be.
Yeah, Gracie, please.
All right. So I'm just so excited we're having this conversation. And one of the reasons we are very particular about this is, you know, you're using your voice right now to 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 help. So we're very for that. I just thought it would be nice to mention that your voice, your impact, and this is so profound that we were having this conversation, and I'm very sure parents would be listening, and I'm hoping that someone right now that needs the help that you you you're able to give would be able to reach out to you to get that help. And I think that's how interesting this life is. You know, when the energetic aging, was talking about, I don't know, your environment, you're talking about, nature um, gradually reducing, I don't know, in your climb. And then what came to my head is your nature. She's nature. And when you all come out, and you connect, that's also nature connecting to nature. So it's a beautiful thing that you come out to play, and just coming out with your son, it's an amazing thing. I just thought it would be nice to remember that. So anytime you come out and you see people dancing, laughing, shouting, that's another form of nature,
Nature, love
playing out, and
it.
that's very beautiful. All right, so I want to when you said balance is, you didn't say it this way, but balance is a myth. I was like, yes, that's it, because it's very interesting. knowledge is a beautiful thing because knowledge is something that as we learn, we unlearn, we take the new ones and understand it. And then when we get to another level, we learn and we drop. And that's one thing that we embrace as scientists. I read in an article where someone said work-life balance is a myth. And at that time, the knowledge I had was balance is key. Balance is my knowledge of balance was you can balance, you can balance this and this, and then you enjoy your life. But the new knowledge I have is harmony, harmonizing things together. So I have a question for you. When you said something around, you know, dealing with things per time, enjoying the moment, being and making sure you focus on what you want to focus per time. That was what I grasped. I grasped
Mm-hmm.
from what you said. How are you able to focus on one thing, or what can you share your framework, just maybe in a way to help us understand that how do I focus on one thing per time and stay in a state of mind where I'm not worried that other things that are supposed to be attended to are are not being attended to? How am I able to still be calm, to be able to focus on what I have to focus per time without being bothered about the other things running on the other side that still needs me to attend to them? But because I am focused on attending to one thing per time, how am I able to stay focused? Because it's very easy to focus on one thing per time, but because of our makeup as human beings, to be worried about other things that may not be in place per time. You might be, oh, but there is this thing that I have to do, there's that thing that I have to do, but you have trained yourself to still work with one thing per time. How? Practically speaking, with examples like dealing with your little one and dealing with your family and dealing with income, how are you able to deal with those things per time without fretting, without being anxious?
Mm.
Practically, I love examples. I'd love for you to share an example if that's okay. Thank you.
Sure. So, one of the things that happens, especially when you have a little one and we're dealing with health, is, let's say, and usually it's the examples I have might be a bit extreme for people. It's because this is just the reality of our life. So we wake up and you're ready to go, everything is prepared to go to school, etc. But then you realize that this child has a fever and we have to be careful, or we have a seizure going on, or we have some kind of health issue going on. Now I have a choice. I have to pause and stop and make a decision here. So, what serves me right now? What serves him right now in this very moment to help us get through what is happening? And a very simple thing, fever, feeling hot, you getting the body tells, right? So, the first step, and you can only do one thing at a time, grab the thermometer, check. And from that check, you make your next decision, knowing that one action, well chosen, leads to a decision, to another action, and another action, and another action. So then you start thinking, okay, temperature high, how high is it? Is it a hospital visit high, or is it a stay home high? So you choose what is the flaming hot potatoes, where is the biggest fire at that point in time, literally, and focus on that fire, right? Because if it is, I get to pass the school timing and realize, oh, I forgot to tell this school, you know, that's okay. What are they going to do? Ask him to expel him? No, because you can explain later. I guess for me, I'm very lucky because I have a lot of physical signs that helped to direct where I need to be at that point in time with the little one. Another example, and this is quite funny. I'll tell you a story. So in my last position in corporate, it came after 9 months of being home with Alexander. And I decided to go back to work because I thought exactly something you said, money. How am I going to get the money? How are we going to pay for these things? And at that point, our family business, my husband had started his business, was just about taking off. Do you know, Grace, that I actually went into the job and I worked, and my capacity at that job was 6 months. My body didn't want to be there, and it was telling me, this is not where you want to be. Little signs come in. So if I had listened to the little signs, I could have chosen to leave that job. But because I was ignoring the signs, I was listening to society, I doing what I thought was the right thing to do, and putting up with being in a space that I didn't want to be. I resented being at work. I resented going into work and giving somebody else my time. And I was having conversations with myself and hating myself and getting sick. I got sick quite a lot. So even physically manifesting, coming home at night, hating myself, thinking I only have 10 minutes with little one before he goes to bed. Guess what? At the time of evaluation, I was told, we're not seeing what we expected when we started this contract. And therefore, we're not going to continue. We're not going to continue with your contract. So because I wasn't listening to those little signs, I wasn't seeing the fire. I was seeing the fire, but ignoring them. It happened to me. So it's almost as if I don't choose what needs to happen, chooses to happen. It comes, it manifests in another way. Who is it? Is it Oprah Winfrey says, the universe speaks to us in whispers. And if we don't listen, it really hits you the hard way. So that goes back to the topic of be in balance. How are we able to be in a way that we can hear the whispers? Right? And you're right, Grace, there are decisions that we have to make, what to choose to be with at that point in time. And for those of us out there who are not even parents that are on this call, we all have choices to make. And something you and EJ said earlier, you spoke about your faith. You went to church, right? You put yourself in this space of quiet and calm and groundedness. For me personally, I like to meditate. I like to do yoga, being outside, just listening, a bit like EJ, listening to the waves, cutting a lot of the noise. I think also helps to put the state that you're in, to make the decision in that moment, what to focus on first. And many times I made mistakes. I have to tell you, I chose the wrong thing to focus on. Not just in the big things, but also in the little things. And I still choose the wrong thing sometimes. But in addition to that, is also recognizing the importance of, okay, I get it wrong this time. What can I do differently next time? So hopefully that helps to answer the question, Grace.
Absolutely. And I love it. Because again, when we talk, it's almost as if it is impossible to talk about this thing, about being, about harmony, about making the right choices, choosing the decision in the moment, without talking about awareness. It feels like that's the anchor of it all. Because again, if you're not even aware, like you said, I think the level of awareness is also important, because like you said earlier on, you could see the signs, but it's like your awareness level was not tight enough or was not high enough for you to say, would you listen to what your body is telling you and make your choices based on that? All right. So again, it's becoming more and more and more glaring on a daily basis as we talk about these things, as we try to navigate through life, as we try to understand what works for us in our peculiar situations, that awareness is very, very important. So in the scope of balance, your framework, we've talked about B, which is the belief, what you believe about what is happening. What would you, so how would you speak to somebody who, because we also talk about belief, there's also like the head is also going believe, 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 believe in what, believe in myself, believe in something, believe in God, believe in the universe, whatever, you know. How does that word belief play in the balance? How would somebody, and I love what you said just now, because I think it's a matter of you being so aware about inclusivity now. You're very happy to include everyone. Like, see, even if you're not yet a mom or you're not a parent of a special need kid, you can still apply this framework because it's just life. It's life, right? So
True.
how does belief truly play in the scope of, you know, the framework called balance?
So it's very funny because you talk about awareness, because the A after the B is acknowledging. So the belief is, so we look at, some people call it limiting self belief. What is it that you believe around a particular topic, a particular activity, a particular goal, a particular decision? And this is why it's a beautiful framework that you can apply to anything. Stating, this is what I believe in, and just leaving it there. And then saying, okay, what is it I have to acknowledge here? And that is, for me, the first step to becoming aware of something. Because one of the things I acknowledge about my experience in my last corporate position was that it was a mistake to go back into work. Even after on the first week itself, I was getting signs, right? I wasn't ready to accept at that point that it was time to leave the corporate world and this incredible identity as an executive director. It was a very posh and very high place to be, to come into my next space. I wasn't ready to accept, but at least when I acknowledged that that was what was going on, I opened my mind, and then I began to realize that I wasn't even ready to make the transition. And that was something that when we become aware and we acknowledge that something is happening, that actually says, the awareness is there. And by being aware, you're actually learning something, right? You are learning something about yourself. You're learning something about your environment. You're learning about how strong or not, or the word strong is very relative. How resourceful. I think it's about your resources. Learning where the resources here. What do I have and what do I need? And where will I find what I need? Right? So as we go through the framework, what is the belief? What do I need to acknowledge? And that leads into acceptance. And that is a huge area of awareness of my learning. What do I need to learn? And then when all of this kind of stuff is going on, there is something that we often, and this is again going back to the being, how are we feeding ourselves? And I'm talking about, yes, feeding as in food, physical. Yes. So we're talking physical, mental, and emotional. Some people will say spiritual. For me, emotional, because that's a lot of energy. That has to do with energy, right? And to keep up with a lot of what we want to do or we want to be, or the decision, anything we're doing. They say emotion is energy in motion. Yeah, there you go. Emotions are energy in motion. So this is about feeding ourselves, the nourishment of it, right? And so we're acknowledging to accept. We're learning about what resources we have or need. We're also nourishing ourselves to sustain this whole process. And then we go into what is it that I'm consciously choosing? Because you also have to do actions here. So if I am finding myself blocked, what action needs to take place? If I'm finding myself not going in my direction, what action needs to take place for me to move to one place or another? And then choosing, when I get to choose those actions, it's my actions. I take ownership of them. Guess what? I can change them. That's the beauty of choosing, right? I can change them at any time because they belong to me. I'm only in control of what I can control. And to checkpoint at the bottom of the framework, the E in the balance framework, it's always about pausing, looking at the efforts that we put out and evaluating those efforts, right? So, and it doesn't necessarily mean it all happens in sequence, but it can happen at different points and different parts. So when I am acknowledging, I can check, what am I acknowledging here, right? And when I acknowledge, oh, wow, that was not a great decision. What can I do differently? What can I tweak in my evaluation here to try an action, a different action? So I think, and this is why I say it's not a process, it's not a formula, it's a framework that you can choose which part of the 7 parts to look at anything in particular. You can do it on your own. You can do it. I love to help people facilitate the conversation around it. So the framework really gives us a vocabulary that we could work together with to bring you to one space or another. And what is really nice, I guess, having been an executive and a very results-driven person in my previous work life, and again, as a mom to a child with special needs, it's what happens at the end. And that's, I tell you, it's very scary because I find myself looking down the road 5-10 years and scaring myself with what hasn't happened yet. So going back to Grace's question earlier, when I start finding myself finding in a very scary place, I bring myself back. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's so interesting you mentioned that, because I work with clients that sometimes when I speak to them, I hear that, oh my goodness, not wasted, they did a very good job, attending to their children, to their family,
Mm.
and they get to a point where they are like, I lost myself in attending to my family, to others except myself, and for some of them, you see a very high level of regret, a high
Mm.
level of not feeling fulfilled. And in fact, this this particular situation has kept them in a very unhealthy state where it is beginning to affect their health. And that's one of the things that in my industry, in the work that I do, is about harmony. So there's something in coaching where we say wheel of life, and there are
Mm.
12 critical areas where
Yes.
for whatever it is worth, if you're not attending to the need, our need as human beings are enormous, and you attend to each need per time, whichever way. In your case, you've been able to create a system, that works. And now, like I said earlier, working with these women particularly, because I know that for men, they always would, when it comes to their career, they would always go for their career, they would always go for things that would make them, really fulfilled. But women most times are usually the, should I say, more, okay, let me be very careful now so that some people won't come for me. But most of the clients that I work with are women, and you find out that they feel unfulfilled, that, because interestingly, it never ends.
Mm.
Even these children at 40, they still, mothers, parents are always going to be parents, and they would continue to think of their children, at some point their grandchildren, how are they doing, what is happening, so there is never a time where this would come to an end. So there's a parent now watching us and listening to this conversation, and then is saying to herself, to himself, and it's like, I think that when I put things in perspective, I have lost myself trying to deal with this part of my life, because again, it has to do with values. You talked about
Yeah,
beliefs, and
it's a
then we have
belief.
values, and people attend to things that they value. And for me, I value family a lot, so I could resonate, I could relate to what you were saying about attending to. So even for parents that don't have, kids with special, kids would be kids, children will be children, they would give you,
Mhm.
they need the attention, they need the guidance, they need, so the question now is, how do you do things ensuring you're not losing yourself and losing the
Mm.
things that you are here for? I believe we all have our different purposes, and we have
Mm.
things that we're called out to do. And then for ourselves, for our health, for our wellness, for, holistic living in general. How do you make sure that, but for you, it might be parenting, for another person, it might be work, for another person, it might be their
Yeah.
relationship, it's their business, how do you, or how can you talk to someone watching and listening to them? Because most times we have extremes, we have things that we
Mhm.
dedicated our lives to, while other
Yeah.
places are suffering, because they say energy goes where focus is, or focus goes
Yes.
where energy goes. There's a way that thing is said, so
Mhm.
how
Energy goes where focus flow or where attention flows. Yeah.
Yes.
where
Yes.
attention flows. Yeah. So how is that person, you're speaking to someone now that probably is in that space in their life where
Mm.
they know that they are losing themselves because they have chosen to prioritize only one thing, or
Mm.
maybe two, three things that they have priority, that they value more than other
Mhm.
areas. So that's what I would ask you, because it's something that, people are really battling with now in today's world, because they've given all of themselves to some things and they have
Yes.
left themselves out.
Like
And
you literally
help.
described my avatar, the people I work with, women I work with. So I'm eager to hear what
And
Laura has to share.
it's amazing because I see in the comments that somebody is asking, Ahmed is asking, does a
Yes.
balanced model flow on the now while not worrying about the future, nor looking at the past? So going back to something you said, Grace, that person you work with who said, I feel like, or I regret, right there is a belief, right? And it's about pinning down the actually what they think about that particular situation, right?
Yeah.
That particular thing that they need to tackle. Let's address the elephant in the room. Now the first
Mm,
thing is what has happened in the past. We have to accept it's the past, but we have a choice now.
Mm.
Looking at that statement that they believe and clarifying what exactly is it, because they may think that I regret putting all my focus on this one, two, or three things. Let's
yeah.
acknowledge what has been the outcome of that, right?
Mm,
Good, bad, or indifferent. My kids are getting more independent or not, right? Maybe the way I've been doing it so far is not yielding what it is that I want, right?
exactly.
So what is
Yeah.
it we need to acknowledge about that? And then when they're ready, how can they accept? And even accepting that what has happened in the past is gone, right? That
Yeah.
might be some work that needs to happen. And as a coach, that sometimes that takes some time, reflecting, working on it.
Mm,
And when we get to the point where we're ready to say, okay, I may not be able to accept, but I acknowledge that has happened. What needs to happen next? What do I want to
Way forward.
choose? What do I want to choose to step into? And you
Mm.
can't step into your past.
It's
You can
gone.
choose, you can choose to step into the future, right?
Future.
But
Right.
before you go even into the future, let's look at what we have in front of us in the present.
Mm.
And that's where I think we can get so, and this is why having a coach is such a beautiful experience,
Tell
right?
them, darling. Tell them, darling. Tell
Louder,
them.
louder, louder.
So having a coach is it's that's your thinking partner. You think out
Yes.
loud. The coach
Oh,
pulls out of you what is it that you're thinking and verbalizing it,
yeah.
right? And it doesn't matter if you have a preference for extroversion, you talk a lot, you more so you need a coach maybe, or it doesn't matter if you have a preference for introversion, you like to think inside. By
Mm.
getting it out, a coach reflects back to you. This is what I'm hearing, right? And this is what this is telling me. What does it mean for you? What needs to what do you need to acknowledge here? Maybe the coach, sometimes I say, I want to acknowledge your strength here. I want to acknowledge that you're doing the work here.
Mm.
And just let it sit. Let them be for a little bit. Right? Because we are the stories. The movies in our head is what we become.
Mm.
That's right.
Right?
Right. Right.
If
Correct.
we live if we live in the past where things may not have happened the way we wanted it to happen, we will live there.
Right.
Whereas
Mm.
choosing to move forward, consciously choosing to move forward. And so going back to what you're asking here, it's about getting that belief down and going through it, and preferably with a coach, somebody qualified to take you through it. Um, and it's very much where you are now. Because when you are looking at where you are now, you can choose where to go next, right? And where you are now also helps you to come up with the action that you want to take next. If you even want to take an action, if you want to just sit with it and roll around in it, that's okay.
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Yes, and I do. I think in that's in the response to Grace's question. I think you've also covered, what Ahmed was
Yeah.
asking here. Like, does it focus? If it's focused on the now, now, why not worry about the future nor looking at the past? Is this how one can start to think about the balance? Yeah, I think you pretty much covered. Yeah, but if you have another thought to
Yeah.
add to it, you can go ahead.
Well, it's interesting because if I think of a scale, right? At
A
some point
skill.
in a scale, you
Mm,
have a fulcrum, the part that goes, it tips either left or right. This
right.
point here, it's called a fulcrum in science. And if you think about the now, if you look at which direction is it going based on this point, you're focusing on the now. And you can choose where to put your weight. Where is your weight needed? Where is your attention needed? Going back to Grace's earlier question, if you try to spread your attention all over the place, your energy may not sustain you, right?
Mm,
And that's where we can make the conscious decision on, I'll leave that aside and I'll focus here. Because by looking at tipping the scale in this direction, I focus on what needs my attention.
right. Right. Wow.
I can
Fantastic.
even I can even add
Yes,
to
go
that.
ahead, Grace. Yes,
You,
please.
you know, again, the work that I do, because I realized
Mm,
that, truth be told, um, there's always going to be something that will take more of your attention.
mm,
There's always going to be that. And because of the fact that some things can not be done, because that this some things cannot just be done if you want to do them by yourself, except you have the capacity. So that's why we talk a lot about building capacity, because we're very different, our energy levels are different, and we just need it's a need to build a system. And my work is always I always talk about, I help people build systems, and it's also something that you can do for yourself. It's something that we all can start, with a point of okay, this is one thing that I know takes my time. So journaling is one thing that can help that, put things in perspective. So I noticed in a month, I asked myself, what took my time? What did I spend so much money on? I checked my 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 statement of account, and I saw, it's also a pointer to help you know what you value. You just take your
Where your
statement of
heart
account. What
is.
have you been spending a lot on? So for some people, a girl was just saying that, "Hell, my statement of
Hair,
account, bag, shoe, hair, bag, shoe, hair, bag, shoe."
fashion.
You know, she was just saying, and it was funny. And I said, I mean, if you
That's
find that's what makes you feel good, but there's probably something that you could also do. Self-esteem issues can be connected to such areas where some
right.
people feel that this is
They need to
the
get those
only thing
things.
that they need to do,
What's
exactly,
their belief?
to help
What's their
them.
belief around that? Yeah.
What's the belief? That's
Mm,
the belief. So what's the belief? So it takes, for coaches, it takes a lot. Even for myself, I do have a coach, and I notice that, why am I learning a lot? Why am I taking this course? Why am I taking that course? Why am I doing this? I sit down and I ask myself this critical question, and then I say to myself, okay, I think this year my career has taken so much of my attention, because I noticed that I am just all over the place talking about my career and the things that I need to improve to get me to the next level in my career. So I would sit down and I would ask myself, is this taking too much of my time? And what is this thing that I'm doing affecting? I mean, how is it
yeah.
affecting other
Other
areas?
areas.
So
Mm.
I like to give myself kudos, and I look
Mm.
at my life, 5 years, 6 years, what have I done? Because I think progress is always better than perfection and little.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I remember that when I was working in a multinational, I used to wake up 4 a.m. because I used to live in a very busy city, Lagos City, Nigeria. My goodness. I used to live in that city, and I would wake up 4 a.m., get back home around 10, traffic, everything. And, I woke up one day and I told myself, this is not life. This is not life at all. And I resigned. So I said, every time I want to beat myself, and I say that, you're too career driven. You're too career driven. I'm like, hello, you resigned from a job that was taking too much of your time, and you're doing this now that is a lot flexible. And what you're doing, learning, is not just about the career, it's about building yourself, the being that we talked about. And when you're learning, what does it do for you? And I said, I love it. I feel good when I learn. And I love, so it's the questions that you talk about me asking questions. So I do that to myself a lot.
Right.
And I think no matter what we say here today, the best answer you'd always get is the questions you ask yourself, and the answer because nobody can, no matter how anybody lies to you, you cannot lie to yourself. That's just the truth.
Beautiful.
You will
It's
never be
so
able to lie to
beautiful.
yourself. And that's why
But
in
are
coaching,
you sure you can never lie to yourself? I think there are people who have crossed that line.
no, what I
Like they
mean
are
is,
convinced.
you know
They
you're
are
lying to
convinced.
yourself. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So here is the catch. When you say things to yourself, you know that this thing you're doing is a lie. You're not being truthful to yourself, but you want to do it anyway.
Anyways.
Mm.
You want to
Talking
do it
to the
anyway.
converted. Yes.
And that's why most times when somebody comes to me for an advice, what I say is, uh, I already know where the person wants. The person maybe is looking for someone that would help them buttress their point.
To
We are,
affirm them.
yeah, to affirm them. We're very intelligent beings, and we have all the tools we need we have all the tools. And that's why working with a coach will just help you bring it out.
Mm.
Will not tell you
You
what
see
to
that
do.
tools, yeah.
Exactly.
You see
So
it.
building a system, to wrap up what he said,
Mm.
building a system is just so fantastic. You won't believe that today already, I woke up this morning. I went for my walk. I did a 12 kilometers walk. And in that walk, I listened to my audio Jim Rohn's. I listened to it. So I did two things with with within the space of 2 hours, and I'm able to attend to other family things, and it doesn't look like a chore because I built the system in such a way that it's more like a routine, an interesting routine that doesn't look like work. What I'm doing right now is work to me. So I've been able to build that system that makes it a lot easier. And I give myself kudos when I am over analyzing and over criticizing myself that look, you're not doing well. I mean, you're beating yourself, you're focusing too much on this. And then so journaling is the best way to go. Itemizing all those areas of the areas you want, to work with, and then when you build a system around it, it becomes easier. It becomes interesting. It doesn't look so cumbersome. It doesn't look so. There are days I work really hard, and there are days I play. Okay, we make choices to align with our priorities, but it is never easy when we have two options that mean the world to us, and one of them we really need to compromise. How the balance model helped Laura to maintain a sense of equilibrium in her life? What
Mm.
was activities such as yoga, which you have mentioned, helped you to reach this equilibrium? Okay, I think Ahmed really wants a practical. Okay, I think Ahmed, at the end of the day, we're going to share some tips. I think
Mm.
Laura, we're almost at the end of our show, so
Mhm.
maybe this would have to we'll take this up
Yes.
until next week. He wants practical. He picked yoga, so maybe you'd help him share
Well,
some
it's
of the things that.
interesting. It's interesting, Grace, because it goes back to the topic for today, B.
Yeah.
Because he is talking here about two options. And
Yeah.
this, and you both were just saying something interesting. When we make a statement to ourselves, we know if we're lying in the pit of our stomach, right?
Right.
Being in a space. And so, being, it doesn't necessarily have to be yoga. For me, it's yoga because this is how my body works. This is how I do. For you, it was walking and doing your thing. How do you choose to be? For EJ, I know she's a singer. Different people have different ways of being. First begin finding
Finding,
what is your
yeah.
way of being and being still with yourself to make that decision. So when you have to compromise or and this is what the balance model is about, asking yourself questions. Because I heard you, Grace, going through your journey where you acknowledged that the job wasn't for you and you accepted that you needed to leave, right? And then you started studying and learning. You talk about learning and stretching yourself and becoming more to the point where you get to the point where you can take the action to become a coach and help others and help yourself in the meantime, right? So that was your action. And you continue to nourish yourself mentally with your Jim Rohn and all the different things you put in and your physical exercise. Because here we see a very confident woman. We see someone who is very decisive. And maybe people are looking at you and saying, I wish I could be like that, because you nourish yourself and you chose to do that. You could still be back in corporate. You could still be back in Lagos waking up at 4 a.m., but you chose. But you chose that because you were able to be grounded. Find your space of being grounded. This is what today's topic is really about. And then what I like is that by journaling, you can see how your choices go, which direction your choices go. And then you
Right.
can choose what to do next. And I love this. You check your account balance, what you choose to spend it on. Because if it's too many handbags or too many manicures, you can choose to bring it back to somewhere else, right? And
Spread
this
it.
is This
better.
is this is the beautiful thing of this. So I'm hoping. So for me, Ahmed, it was yoga because it's movement of body, but also it's breath and it's quiet and it's in a quiet space. And I think it helps me to ground, to connect. And
Yeah,
whether for you, Ahmed, it's something else, listening to music or whatever it is, I think we all have to find that thing that helps
that
us to
works
be.
for us. Absolutely. I look forward to exploring your silent retreat you go for. Like,
Aha.
so Laura
Every
goes for
day.
silent retreats at intervals a couple of times a year. And this is like a whole weekend, no talking.
Three
Hey!
and a half
A
days.
whole weekend, no
No,
talking.
no electronics, no talking, no phone, no laptop, not even listening to the radio, no TV, no internet, nothing. You disconnect, you unplug.
And not
I'm
speaking. You can't
I
even, like, no
love it.
speaking.
I'm going to connect with you. I definitely would connect with you and we'll talk more because I have always thought about that. And I think it's a very wonderful place to be. If you're able to
It's an
master that,
Mhm.
experience. Yes,
wow.
it's an
And
And I
you
experience.
have
know
help. You have help to do it. And I'm pretty sure in your city you can do it as well.
I do it, but not at 3 days, no talk, no. I'm like, wow, that's another level of solitude.
Another
Goodness.
level.
Oh, I love your excitement. I love your excitement, Grace. Connect with me and I'll tell you exactly who helps me. And they are in 180 cities around the countries around the world. Not cities, countries. So most likely they're in your
Absolutely. It
country
might
too.
be in Nigeria. That's good.
I
That's
will
good.
definitely
Again,
connect.
I love it. I love how we've, come to a resolve to say at the end of the day, it still comes back to each and every one of us. Knowing that, and that's why it's a framework. It's not a formula, it's not a procedure. It's a framework that you can adopt and adapt to your special situation depending on what level you found yourself right now. While you ladies were talking about, the tools and everything, one tool, for some reason, I don't know, but I guess this is the
Mhm.
time, is the right time for me to come into that awareness. The tool that just popped into my awareness is like the tracking tool. Like, I've never tracking, and what even brought it. So I just concluded my certification in masteries, IAC masteries, in coaching masteries. And when I was doing my development plan for the course to get my certificate, the examiner who examined me asked that question. He's actually on LinkedIn as well, Eduardo. And he asked a question like, okay, like, he asked some question and I didn't answer. I didn't give him the answer he wasn't expecting an answer. Coach, you don't expect an answer, but I didn't quite land, or I didn't explore I was resisting to answer the question, but he kept digging, and it occurred to me that, okay, one of the things that I needed to do for my next level to really know how much progress I'm making, if I'm even making progress at all, was to actually track. And I don't think I've actively tracked my progress. I know it vaguely. I know I am moving. I know I'm making progress, but there is no data to back it up to say this is how many. That's why when we came back, I'm like, I have to go and check. I know we've been saying this like,
Mm.
maybe it's like we've been doing 5 months now. Until you shared, Grace, until you shared that date, like, EJ, we actually started on June 19th. So I had to go and count the Mondays since then, because
Yeah.
I know we've not missed any Mondays. 33 is no joke.
No. Half a
33,
year. That's a half a
yeah,
year
that's
of
half a
work,
year,
huh?
right? It's
More
no
than.
joke. So in a way, I could have imagine if we even missed one, right? And I just vaguely felt, well, we are consistent, but with this data now, I know we are consistent. Like, I can say with my full chest confidently, because I can see the data. I am tracking the data. I'm tracking the information. I'm tracking the journey. Now I know. And I'm like, whoa, do you
You
know how
learn
far I've come?
something.
Do you
Look how
understand?
cool is
Can you
that?
imagine how far I've come? But I cannot articulate it because I wasn't actively, consciously tracking it. And that's why the tracker I designed, I'm like, man, this is so awesome. it's so awesome to know that actually I said I would do this thing, and in the last 28 days, I have been consistently doing
Yeah.
it. That is information that will boost my confidence anytime, any day. That is information that will motivate me to keep at it, because now I know it is possible. So even when I fall 1 day, 2 days, I'm like, no, it's just a fall. I'm not going to stay there. I'm going back. This, honestly, like, so when you guys were saying tools, think about it. I mean, I put out a blog post today. I'm attaching the tracker to it. If you want to access it, just reach out to me. Read my blog post. If you're following me on WhatsApp anyway, you'd have seen it somewhere. Read the blog post, apply, as in join my mailing list to get the tracker, and just try it for yourself. You will be amazed. It's just for 15 habits. I don't think that's a lot, but again, if you look at it and break it down to the things you need to do on a daily basis, you might be able to get up to 15 things that you want to consistently do. Like even at something as easy as drinking water. Like I want to drink 1 liter of water every day. You can track it and know, okay, I've not been able to hit it. And then you can go again next month. And then you can literally see your growth and say,
Yeah.
in 6 months, I've actually started drinking 1.5 liter of water. It is powerful. I feel like I knew this on the head level, but now it has entered into my heart. And I love it. So amazing conversation we've had today. Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you so much, Grace. So amazing for sharing. And I really do hope for everyone who has listened or watched this from LinkedIn, on YouTube, on X, I hope you've gotten some value. If you please let the conversation not end here. And I think that's another beautiful thing about conversations like this. It does not have to end when the live broadcast ends. And that's why we're actually broadcasting on the different platforms, so that we can take the conversation further. So if you have more questions, all of us are going to be in the comment section. You can, ask your question. You can go further. If instead of engaging in the comment section, reach out, slide into the DM, go on. I know Laura has her workshops from time to time. Enroll for it. I know Grace has a community right now. She's actually, you would have seen the video at the beginning of it. Reach out to her and say, how can I be a part of a community? I want to build a system. I want to build habits that would make me, get to the next level I want to get to. If you want to reach out to me as well, especially if you're a woman and you that description Gracie gave earlier on, when she talked about that fulfillment, you feel like you've lost yourself. I can relate. And I would love to help you as a coach to help you see what are the other options. How can you really explore the other options without having to let go of these things you value? Because the same things you feel you've lost yourself to is because you value them. But then you don't have to it's more like you don't have to lose yourself because you're valuing them. You can value them and also do something for yourself, and we can make that happen for you. Again, final words from you,
win-win,
ladies.
a
Yes,
win-win
it's a win-win
situation.
situation. Absolutely, absolutely. Final words from you, beautiful ladies, and then we call it an evening.
Now, my call to action is for anybody who's been here and listened and found value here, is to find your way of being. What is the one thing that grounds you? We know for EJ, for you, it's going to the beach. It's one of the things. Grace loves to learn. Ahmed, reach out and tell me what it is you like to do to ground yourself and be in that state where you can make decisions. That's my call to action today.
Love it, love it, love it. Yes, Gracie.
Yeah, so practically, I love to give something that's very practical. So this week, and that's one thing we do on Mondays. You're starting the week this Monday. You want to ask yourself one thing that you have been prioritizing, and the other thing that you've not been paying attention to, and you also know that can be that you need to pay attention to. So what's suffering, or something that would help you? You want to ask yourself that question, not to beat yourself, but just to keep track and understand if there's need to put more work or still continue to build yourself, so that you can get to the level where you want to attend to the other things that you want to attend to. So um, that's what I would say you do this week. Just pay attention. And yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Take
for
stock. Thank you so much,
joining
Ahmed.
and engaging us. We love
Absolutely.
the
Yes.
likes of Ahmed. We love the likes of
Yes.
Ahmed. Thank you so much. And
We
you can
want
also
more,
reach out to
more.
me on Instagram. My handle is 𝗕ecie𝗂𝗿 so SOO amazing, and then we can connect and learn from each other.
Absolutely. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much, my
Jane. Thank
beautiful
you so much.
ladies. Thank you. Thank you. Grazie. All right, guys. So we'll come your way again next week, Monday, and another conversation. Please do well. If you're watching on YouTube, remember to hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on LinkedIn, send a connection request. Let's connect. Let the conversation continue in the comment section. And if you have, you want to share your voice, because remember, this is your voice, your impact. You have a voice, and your voice is meant for impact. You have a message, you have a framework, you have something that you feel like the next person can run with if you share. Please reach out and be a guest on the show. Don't be afraid. We'll make it so comfortable for you. Even if it's your first time, you wouldn't even feel it like, oh my God, I'm on camera. Don't worry. You won't be alone, okay?
All
See you
right.
next week. Bye.
Bye.